welcome to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. I'm your host, Louis Padian. I hope that you're doing well and are enjoying the podcast and the topics we've covered so far. These podcasts are released every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so be sure to subscribe wherever you are listening to be kept up to date.
So today we're going to be following on from the previous episode where we discussed whey protein, a supplement, and another supplement that's often considered alongside that, and that is creatine. And again, it's one of the ones that I put into the bracket of potentially people thinking that it might be a steroid, it might be something that's completely avoided, but actually it's something that needs to be expanded beyond the sort of fitness and athlete realm into general health, as there's lots of really exciting reasons why that might be useful. But first of all, we'll jump into what actually is creatine. So creatine monohydrate, that's the most common one or the most researched one that you might see, and actually the best one out there. So if you see other ones talking about different types of creatine and the benefits around it, actually creatine monohydrate, the cheapest, best and most researched, is actually a naturally occurring substance found in the body and helps produce energy for muscular contraction. So when we have a look at different energy sources, we might have a look at carbohydrates, we might have a look at fats, but actually creatine itself is an energy source that's naturally produced in the body. And what we're trying to do by supplementing with creatine is increase those creatine stores to allow us to increase the potential energy that we can produce within that muscle and actually improve its performance. And when we talk about creatine versus the other fuels, so fats usually for lower intensity but can really good energy source for long duration. So we're talking about long distance running, for example, or day-to-day activities will mainly be fueled by fat. Slightly higher intensity stuff, so if we're looking for a decent pace run where you're struggling with your breath a little bit, it's getting really heavy and you might be running a shorter distance, so we might say, I don't know, a kilometre. If you're going all out for that, you'll tap into your glucose stores there. When we look at creatine, phosphocreatine, which is the stored version in the muscles, that's for really explosive. So if you were to really contract all your muscles and jump as high as you can right now, that'll be fueled by phosphocreatine, and that's really limited. Takes a bit longer to replenish as well, so that's why we can't do really high intensity work for long periods or longer than 10-15 seconds, because we actually tap out into all those stores and actually really run low, so we can't work at that high intensity anymore. So hopefully that's giving you a bit of an idea of where it sits within the body and why it might be useful. It's already available in foods that we eat as well, so meat, fish, milk, and then also as a dietary supplement. And what its most popular usage is amongst athletes and bodybuilders. And the reasons they will take it, as we'll touch into in a second, is increase their muscle mass, their strength and exercise performance. And as I've said, this alongside caffeine is one of the most researched and evidence-based supplements out there. There's only a handful that I'd often recommend for people that are really well supported by evidence and the research. Creatine is definitely one of them. So why do people take it? So we've already talked about increased muscle strength, mass and power, and we'll have a look at some of the data around that now, but it has several health benefits. So muscle strength, power and mass. So a 2017 meta-analysis found that creatine supplementation increased muscle mass strength by an average of 2%, which doesn't sound a huge amount, and muscle mass by an average of 1.4 kilos, and that was in resistance trained athletes or individuals. And the reason that it's really important to have a look at the populations that we work within is actually when we're assessing, if that was in general population, that might not sound like a lot because people might not be accessing those stores or those, how it might impact them or benefit them very often. And they might not be trained, so they might not be able to get the full benefits from it. But if we have a look at resistance trained individuals, those are people who have already got what we'd call newbie gains. So you make really good gains initially when you start lifting weights or start anything new. You learn the skill, but also you develop the muscle mass and the muscle strength to make the most of it and to really gain momentum with it. And as you start training longer, your progress starts to plateau a little bit and it gets harder and harder to make those gains. So actually a 2% increase in muscle strength and 1.4 gain in muscle mass of 1.4 kilos, I should say, is huge, and that is massive in resistance trained individuals. A 2008 study found that increased power output by an average of 5% again in athletes, which is massive. So if you're looking at the elite level athletes, if you've got two people there that are training every day, doing all the things they need, one's taking creatine versus one who isn't, and they're genetically exactly the same, 5% could be a huge difference in their performance. So just taking this supplement can increase your average output, your power output by 5%, which is massive. Exercise performance as well, just increase endurance performance by 5%, which is massive again. And now we have a look at some of the more lifestyle sort of benefits, which aren't as known as well, but improved short-term memory, attention in healthy young adults. So supplementing for general day-to-day stuff, improving your memory and improving your attention as well. But also there's some research as well around sort of cognitive decline as people get older. Supplement creatine can help reduce the effects or blunt the effects of that as well, which is really interesting. Reduce fatigue and tiredness, so improve mental clarity during prolonged exercise. So if you're playing a team sports, for example, or if you're doing anything for a long period of time where you need to make decisions, again, it could be really useful for that. And then also improve sleep quality and reduce daytime sleepiness in people with chronic fatigue syndrome. Again, the population is really important there. These are people who would really, really struggle in those aspects of life, and actually having a significant improvement in their sleep and the reduction in daytime sleepiness, again, could have a huge improvement on someone's quality of life just by taking this supplement. A few more: improved recovery from exercise, so reduced muscle soreness and improved recovery after resistance training. And this is one of the things that often puts people off resistance training or lifting weights, is that they get really, really sore when you start, which is kind of a thing that you have to get over. So if we can supplement with creatine just for general day-to-day health, but actually get some people resistance training as well, then it's more like that people more likely to stick with it long term if they're not feeling as sore, because it really, really puts people off, and I completely understand that as well. Some ones that actually are really important for people who are probably listening to this. So as you get into your 30s and 40s, we get sort of it's harder for us to maintain muscle mass. It's definitely harder for us to gain muscle mass as well. And you might think, well, I'm not a bodybuilder, that doesn't matter to me. Well, actually, having more muscle mass as we age is really important to quality of life, reduce risk of falls and things like that. And we want to get people living not just as long as possible, but as healthy for as long as possible. So improved bone mineral density was another thing that was shown to when you're in supplement with creatine, and improve bone health as well. So, and that first one with bone mineral density was in adults with sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle loss. So as you age, losing that muscle mass, actually we can get people maintain that muscle mass long term, which again reduces stress on NHS, improves their overall quality of life. They're able to do more, they're able to live more independently for longer, and all these things are really important. So whilst creatine's in this category of being a sports supplement, actually there's huge amounts of benefits that hopefully in the next couple of years, decades, will start it being used more frequently in people as they get older to improve their quality of life as we age. And then last of all is reduce the risk of sarcopenia. As I've said, that is age-related muscle loss, and we start to see that blunt in people's 30s and 40s really, and it just sort of gets worse and worse as we get older. So creatine has been shown to prevent or slow muscle loss and improve muscle strength and function in older adults with sarcopenia. So again, this is why we encourage people to resistance train throughout life. It's not just about young people do. It's not something that we recommend just to people who, as they get older, but the longer that people are training, the stronger that they are. They tend to have more muscle mass, but it's almost that use it or lose it mentality, where if you're not working muscle mass as we get older, we tend to lose it quicker. But if we can get people continue to exercise as they age, they'll maintain their muscle mass longer, and therefore, like I said, lots of improved health outcomes long term. But if we can get creatine in there as well, again, improve muscle strength, so people are able to live more independently, they're able to manage day-to-day tasks a bit easier, such as carrying, shopping, gardening, all these things that people like to do as they get older, and tends to sort of fall by the wayside as people get into their 60s, 70s, 80s, even older. And also it's harder for them to recover from operations, for example, or if they have any falls or long stays in hospitals or flu and things. It's harder for them to regain that independence. And if we can improve that by getting them more active, yes, but things like creatine playing a part in there as well can be hugely beneficial. So another thing that people might be considering, as a lot of people's main goal is around sort of weight loss, is, will creatine help me with my weight loss? And not really, not in a direct sense, but I would still recommend it for people in general, even if your goal is weight loss. So creatine will increase some water retention, which can really freak people out on the scale. So when they start taking creatine, their scale weight might go up by a couple of kilos, and they might think that they've gained a load of body fat, when actually it's just water retention. And that isn't just fluid, it's actually within the muscle, it's intracellular. And that is just creatine being absorbed into the muscles. And we know there's lots of health benefits, as I've previously mentioned, and they far outweigh the negatives of slight weight gain. But another thing that if people are looking to lose weight, that could be a workaround is, yes, your scale weight might go up, but because of the way that creatine works by it gets stored in the muscle belly, so actually within our muscles, it helps people look a bit fuller. So if you're losing weight because you want to look a certain way, if you want to look a bit more toned, creatine can definitely help with that fuller look in the muscles and help people appear a bit leaner as well, because as your body fat's going down, you've got bigger muscles that you're revealing, and therefore helps you look leaner, more athletic. Big question around creatine is it safe? So as I've said, creatine is one of the most well-researched supplements and has very little to no adverse health risk for most people. There are a few people that would be worth speaking to a GP or physician or their dietitian prior to supplementing with creatine, and that is people who are under 18. Obviously, there's things that we need to be aware of, and it would be unwise for me to say that people from a very young age should be taking it. Pregnant women as well, speaking to your midwife, your GP or dietitian, and those with a history of renal function, of poor renal function or renal disease, so around your liver and kidneys. If you've got any issues around those, please speak to a physician or a dietitian before supplementing or considering the supplement. If that isn't you, and you're thinking, right, I want to get into this, but how much do I need? Is it going to be, I don't know, do I need to have a kilo a day? No, nothing like that. It's actually one of the cheapest sort of supplements out there as well, which is another reason why I think it's really, really good that we talk around it. Same as whey protein, as I spoke in the last episode. We want health to be accessible, and this supplement is a perfect example of this. So if we're looking at people's dosaging, the old sort of way that people used to do, that you had to a loading phase, you took, I think it was 21 days, where you take a lot more creatine to saturate your muscles. But in recent years, that's not necessarily something that we'd consider necessary. You still get the benefits just from taking a small amount each day, and a small amount would be 5 grams. So it's pretty much like a teaspoon, but I would get used to actually weighing it out and getting a proper serving. And they come in bags of 500 gram bags for less than £10, could be £5 in some places. So you've got 100 servings there for 3 months worth for £5 or something like that. So it's actually a really inexpensive supplement to take. People do take more, especially people that are bigger, they're training a lot more, they might take a little bit more, but 3 to 5 grams is the range that we'd recommend for people. As I've said, there might be a loading protocol on the back of the product saying you need to take it for this much. That isn't really necessary. What we've seen from the research is that it doesn't really influence the benefits, but it might mean that you actually get through that bag a lot quicker. So you'll be out of pocket sooner and having to buy your next lot without any real benefits. Any considerations? Like I said, one of the main sort of side effects for people is weight gain, which can freak people out, especially if they wanted to lose weight. But again, I think the benefits for that short-term weight gain are hugely beneficial for the long term. And this is a supplement that I'd recommend people taking long term, so for as long as they would like to moving forward. It wouldn't be a short-term fix, and once you stop taking creatine, so for example if you run out or anything like that, you'll see an influence on the scale straight away, which means that your muscle creatine stores just dropping a little bit, and so is the water as well. So it's one of the things that, yes, weight gain is a consequence of this, but if you're training, if you're wanting to recover a bit better, if you're worried about your cognitive function or want to get the most out of it, if you're worried about losing muscle mass as you age, there's huge amounts of upside to taking creatine for the short term, transient and not actual. Well, there will be a scale weight change, but not actually like gains in body fat. Then for me, it's a win-win. So no adverse effects long term. Lots of studies have suggested that, and actually it's one of the things that I think should be something that we encourage people in the general population to carry on taking. So creatine, as I've said, one of the best supplements that's been researched out there, one of the most robust in the research as well, really affordable, and it's quite easy to take each day. It's just simple 5 grams, 3 to 5 grams I should say. And hopefully this episode has given you a bit more of an insight into the potential benefits, any sort of drawbacks, considerations, and as I've said, if you've got any questions, then reach out and let me know.
So there you have it. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. If you have any questions, queries, or would like to reach out to me, please do. I am at Louis Padian Nutrition, which is at LOUISPADIAN Nutrition on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all other social media platforms. If you're looking for support in achieving your goals and living a healthier, happier, and more balanced life in the process, click the link below and inquire about working with me. Remember to subscribe to the Balanced Approach podcast wherever you're listening for more insightful episodes, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.